Welcome to the VET S.O.S Veteran Educational Resource Spotlight. Remember, don't drown at sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. We are brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud members of the Parade Deck community. As always, I'm here with Dr. Hira. How are you doing today, Dr. Hira?
I am doing very well, and I am very excited to learn more today because I am not as familiar with this institute.
I am excited too. This is one of the programs that I actually utilized during my transition,
Awesome.
and very excited to share this resource with everybody, and hopefully bring some more people into utilizing this program. So
Excellent.
we'll jump right into it. We got Duane, who's a 30-year veteran of the Armed Forces for both the Air Force and the Marine Corps, and is a retired Master Sergeant. He's also held the rank of Deputy Chief of Police for the Department of Defense and is currently the chair for the Disaster Recovery Institute, Veterans Outreach Program, and Texas State Office of Risk Management Continuity Council. He holds certifications from DRI as a Master Business Continuity Professional, International Board of Certification Services and Management, Certified Emergency Disaster Professional, and as a Military Emergency Management Specialist. Duane has recently been recognized by the U.S. House of Representatives Senator John Carter and was awarded the Congressional Veteran Commendation. Quite a list of accomplishments there. Duane, how are you doing today?
Wait a minute. Where is that guy? No, thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
We're so glad to have you. And, I'd love the work you do and the fact that I know I heard about it sort of word of mouth. I connected with somebody on LinkedIn who then saw that I was into business continuity, and then they connected me with you, and then we talked and, applied for the scholarships and things like that. So it's to me, it almost feels more like a ground roots effort, but it's some amazing stuff, and I can't wait to get into this. But we're going to start with your transition. So you did two different services. So I'm assuming there were two different transitions. You want to tell us sort of how your military transition went real quick?
Well, the big joke is I didn't know what I want to do when I grew up, right? So I transferred from one service to another. No, I joined the Marine Corps first, starting out. Actually, I actually started to go join the Army first. Then they couldn't get me in fast enough, so I went over to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps took me. So I got into the Marine Corps and did that for 4 years. I worked with Kilo Company 37, and it was stationed overseas in the Philippines for a little bit. But then, I didn't know really where I wanted to go, but I decided to transition over to the Air Force and get into security forces. There was a passion and family history of being in law enforcement. So I did that, and so I transferred into that. Then I worked in security forces. Then I was asked to do the what's called the first ever biometric identification fingerprinting system, and I was the first airman to ever be assigned with SAF AAZ to work on that program. And so I did that, and that was pretty much my career path for about, I want to say, the next 18 years.
Wow.
And then I worked from the Pentagon all the way to the West Coast, and then I traveled all over teaching biometrics. Then after that, I figured out, hey, I want to do police work afterwards. So I became a chief of police for the U.S. Navy, and I did that for just a little stint until my wife says, hey, we're moving to Texas. I said, okay, honey, we're on our way. So I did that for a while, and I retired out of that. But that big thing for my transition was huge because I didn't know where I wanted to be, and so that was real tough for me. And so while I was applying for the chief of police position, I got contacted by Colonel Alan Lake, who you have met, I believe, in the past. And so Alan said, hey, apply for this scholarship, and said, hey, this will help you transition well from your military service to your civilian side. And I was like, how does that work? I was like, continuity of operations. Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I wrote several manuals on that. But I was like, do we get certifications? Nobody knew about it. So I said, yeah, there is a certification in it. And so it's like, all right, well, talk to me about the 10 professional practice. I said, I do that every day. I actually do it. And I don't care what job you have, where you go, your military service and the things that you do it every day. And I'm not saying the last man on the totem pole to the President of the United States, they do continuity of operations. They just don't know there's a certification in it. So I was actually the first military person to receive the actual scholarship by DRI. And they did a big ceremony and all that in Vegas, which we're going back to next year. But the big thing is that I didn't really know what to expect from the DRI, from my military to my transition. So let me take a step back. Your military service is really very linear, if you will, but there's things that you can branch out into many different career fields within your career and you don't know what to do. But every job has different things where you can get certifications in, from the medical career field all the way down to disaster preparedness. And so that's a huge thing. So people don't know there's certifications in it, right? Right from female all the way down to the private practice, which I think is a blessed thing. And so I learned from DRI that this is out there and available to you. So, pardon me. So my certification that I was getting to apply for and then get received in was something that is going to be push me into another field. How that happened literally was this. I applied, got the scholarship. They said, congratulations. I had my back surgery, went there, had my back surgery, and then I went to my class in Chicago, Illinois, and I flew over there with my back in a brace, and I took
Ooh,
the exam. Oh yeah, I wanted it so bad.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, that was a painful experience, but you know what? It was worth every penny. So from transitioning from my military to the corporate world, or the military DoD police, if you will, um, was a transition because I applied for many different jobs, putting that certification out there on that application and the resume, and they're like, "Hey, bring you in because people want certifications in business continuity or continuity of operations. They're synonymous." And so how that worked is I specifically put that out there, and the reason why I got hired on with the well, because of my background, but the one thing that they stood out was my certification. And so that was the big thing for why I became a chief of police. I thought that was a real big thing. So that has propelled me into a different realm. And so I thought that was really a neat thing to happen. So that's how, for my transition from a military perspective to a civilian perspective. So that's why that it worked well.
That's fantastic. And I think it emphasizes the importance that certifications can play
Yeah.
in various fields there, Dr. Hare.
Definitely. I think, there's always this, you got to go to a 4-year as soon as you get out, right? But again, I say again and again, you need to know what your industry wants. And not every industry says that's the route. And again, the way certifications build and add and what they can cover is so different. And this is why we're having the show, right? We want to raise awareness of different pathways, different, educational opportunities, training, learning. So this is wonderful to learn about and have you share your journey. Because again, I think for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, well, where do I go? And how does this all fit together? And, you're sharing your journey, and it's okay that it kind of goes like this, and it is
Yes,
not straight.
absolutely. I think people have a hard time. I don't care if you're an O10 to an E1. Doesn't matter what your life is. Not a straight linear process. You're going to have the ups and downs, the valleys in betweens. But if you have a great mentorship, and I say that
Mhm.
because it's huge, like you, Dr. Hira, like you, Sean, you're the advocates for us as people, as military vets, saying, I'm here to help you, guide you in a direction that it's going to make you better. You may not be going down that path for the rest of your life, but at least it's a start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The journey takes many twists and turns.
Yes, it
That
does.
is a fact. So tell us a little bit about this program and how it applies to the veteran population.
Mhm.
Well, like I said, I was the first military recipient ever to get it. And so, how do I explain this in a nice format? um, the it's a giving back program. So what I like to tell you is people is that it's the first industry first giving back scholarship program for active duty and military separated veterans. DRI is the gold standard for business continuity or continuity of operations. They teach beyond BC. They teach all kinds of stuff from risk to health management. It's just phenomenal. And so, but the scholarship works this way. One, you have to be in the military. Two, you have to be getting ready to be separated honorably to be reviewed for your scholarship. You have to be within 3 years of getting out, or within 1 year prior to getting out. So 3 years after or 1 year prior, you can apply for your scholarship. That's how that works. And you have to have some good volunteer activities. You have to tell us what you think continuity is about. I mean, you'll write your own three little essays about it. And if you don't know it, look it up because you do it every day. And so you apply for that application, and we do it 4 times a year, and we give out these scholarships. And a lot of people are not applying for them because they're not aware of it.
Yeah.
And so, like Sean, like you had found out through another person to find out about this, which is a blessing. Thank you. And the thing is that when you apply for it, you get if you get picked by the scholarship committee that reviews the applications, they're going to say, okay, great, here's your scholarship. Go take the class at your own cost, at your own location. You can take it online or you can take it in person. I personally will tell you, take it in person because you're going to get, well, and I say this not from a bad standpoint. As an instructor for DRI, as Colonel Alec is, we actually show the transition piece of how this applies. So when Sean, when I talk to you in the military aspect and your mind is like this because you're in the military uniform, and I say vulnerability assessment, you go, oh, physical. Oh, that's a physical issue. Well, in this world, it's ITDR. It's not just the physical, it's dealing with IT. So we're giving that corporate process, that switch. We're teaching you French. So now you can learn that process. And so now that we're giving you these tools and things, it's able to be applicable to what you're learning and how you're going to apply it outside in the real world. And I say real world, we're all in the real world, but you know what I mean? But again, the scholarship literally is just have an honorable discharge or 1 year before you get out, separating honorably within 3 years after you get out, and just apply for the scholarship. Get out there. If you don't know it, contact me, contact you, Sean, please do. Contact VET S.O.S. because they'll say, go to here, go to this website.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's fantastic. And I've been a beneficiary of online learning, and I wound up doing this online because I didn't have a local class near me at the time. But I am wholeheartedly believe in what you just said, and the fact that I think you get so much more out of in person in the classroom. And I would highly recommend if you take this program that you try to do it in the classroom, because not only do you get to have some great conversation, but you also learn from the people around you, whereas you're not going to learn as much from the people around you in an online setting.
Correct.
That's fantastic. Absolutely love it. What do you think, Dr. Hira?
Again, first off, I love that there's a scholarship because, again, I think a lot of times people say, yeah, I'd like this opportunity, but how do I make it happen? So I appreciate you sharing that information on, what the scholarship is intended for, how you can go about it, and again, removing potential barriers as to why people aren't, taking advantage of it. As we've talked about your journey, the scholarship specifically, as we think about the Disaster Recovery Institute International, why should somebody maybe pick that as part of their journey?
Well, I sort of mentioned it before because Dr. Hira, every military person is trained in it and they just don't know they're getting trained.
Yeah.
You have superior leaders. I don't care what organization you come from because they're making the rank. They know what to do. If you get those mentors and you get those good leaders, they're going to say, start doing this, start taking this, start looking at this process because you're going to start learning different things. Like when I became a police officer and then I found out that, hey, look, I can look into fingerprinting. I took 3 classes because of my mentor, my sergeant back then. He says, take these 3 classes. Nobody else is doing it. I want you to go. Oh, okay. Just go. That's what turned me on to becoming the BIF's program manager with the Pentagon, and who I worked with, Jennifer Aquinas, who was just an awesome lady. And so she was just superior, and she actually pushed me and promoted this process. And now they're using it. Now it's called SWIFT, but that whole program has been sunset, and they started a new process. But I was the baseline for all that. You never know where you're going to be if you don't start something now. So, Doctor, I hope that answers your question.
That does. I appreciate you kind of bringing it all together there. That last hitting note for those who are listening today. So thank you, Duane, for joining us on the VET S.O.S podcast. On behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining. You can find the VET S.O.S podcast on all your favorite platforms, of course, YouTube and social media platforms. And make sure you subscribe and follow the VET S.O.S so you don't miss a thing. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.
Absolutely.